Now, Religion in the News, a report and comment on religious trends and events being covered by the media. This week's item is from the Stanford Daily, January 28, 2008, with the headline, Hitchens Knocks Intelligent Design. The following are excerpts. During an animated debate yesterday, atheist Christopher Hitchens and intelligent design advocate Jay Richards clashed over the evidence for God's existence. We are lucky, blessed I would say, to have two extremely smart people here today, host Ben Stein said, giving both participants 14 minutes for their opening remarks. Processes that require foresight are inaccessible to natural selection, Richards said. Hitchens then requested the chance to ask Richards a question. Do you believe Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, he asked. When Richards assented, do you believe he was resurrected from the dead? Richards said that he did. I rest my case, said Hitchens. This is an honest guy who has just made it very clear that science has nothing to do with his worldview. Stein interrupted with a question for Hitchens. Many people are deeply religious, he said. Are they just stupider than you? I think I am smarter than most people, Hitchens said, but he added that it plays an important part in human history. Religion was our first try at philosophy. It was our first try at epistemology. It's what we came up with when we didn't know we lived on a round planet circling the sun. Richard stated that just as the designers of Mount Rushmore made the monument very different from the hills around it, intelligent agents leave markers for their design. The existence of a creator God is something we can discern from the world around us, he concluded. Hitchens disagreed. The world as we know it works as the world might be expected to work if it did not have a designer. He concluded, we can finally grow up if we resign ourselves to this increasingly inescapable truth.
Dave, this is your domain, so I don't want to say too many things about it, except sometimes when I read the verse, a fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Mm-hmm. Certainly Hitchens, he may be brilliant, but he also has a high view of himself. And, I'm not that bright a guy, but I think some of this stuff, you mentioned in our last segment, some of this stuff is stupid. This is stupid. I have a background in industrial design. I can recognize design when I see it. I can recognize something that takes intelligence in order for it to come about. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do that.
Right.
So what's his problem, Dave?
Tom, I'll tell you what his problem is. Let me quote Harvard professor, Nobel Prize winner, and he says, this is Dr. Wald, and he says, well, we know spontaneous generation doesn't work. We have the law of biogenesis. The law of biogenesis is life only comes from life. We all believe that. We know it's true. But if you can't have spontaneous generation, then the only other alternative is a divine creative act. And we're not going to allow that. So here we are as a result of spontaneous generation. So, Tom, they hate God. We were talking about the emergent church people. Well, this is rebellion. They don't want to go by the Bible. I could quote you Lewontin. He's another atheist, professor, brilliant guy. And he says, well, we know that, you only have these two alternatives, and we will not, I'm quoting him verbatim, we will not allow a divine foot in the door. Okay, they are fools. The fool has said in his heart there is no God. Mm-hmm. But the problem is they are rebels. They will not bow to God. Mm-hmm. And Hitchens, he loves to talk about this. Well, you believe in this divine dictatorship. I mean, God's going to tell you whatever you got to think and whatever you're going to do and even what you're going to eat and so forth. He says, he twists the Bible, but this is his problem. And in a debate I was just listening to this morning, Aleister Crowley debating Hitchens, he says, no, I don't look upon this as a heavenly dictatorship. It's a heavenly liberator. This has liberated me. And he was a communist, along with Hitchens, who also was, and an atheist. And he says, I didn't come to this from any emotional experience. I came to it based upon the evidence. Mm-hmm. Those men who gave us science that we have today, like Newton, Newton wrote more about the Bible than he wrote about science. But his book on mathematics is still today the greatest thing that's ever been written out there. So these guys, Tom, they're not bright. I mean, Hitchens is very bright, but they're not bright enough to recognize the truth.
Yeah, well, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Right.
Now, Dave, for people like me, okay, give me a simple reason, make it as simple as you can, why I should believe in design, intelligent design.
Right. Let me give it to you. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Very quickly. DNA. DNA is in writing. It is encoded. It can only be decoded by certain protein molecules. Those protein molecules, they have to exist before DNA exists, but it is DNA that creates the protein molecules. I can give you 100. What came first, chicken or egg? Now, it's in writing. It's information. I have writing on a page right here in my Bible. That is information. It was not the ink or the paper that came up with this information. Einstein himself said that matter cannot arrange itself into information. And when you see information, look, Tom, you had to have the instructions. What these guys are trying to do, they're trying to build a structure without a foundation. You ask them, well, how did it begin? Where did the energy come from? You got a big bang. Where did the energy come from? Well, where did the first life come from? You cannot get a human cell. They talk about evolution and natural selection, but you got to have a reproductive cell to begin with, or natural selection won't work. But they don't want to deal with that. This is Richard Dawkins' pet phrase. We're working on that. We'll find it one day. We're working on it. No, they never will.
For more information about the Berean call us toll-free at our order number or visit our website